My mom texted me out of nowhere while I was folding laundry. No greeting, no context, just one line that made me stop in place. "We're celebrating Thanksgiving only with the well-behaved kids this year. Your daughter can skip it." I stared at the message, reading it repeatedly, hoping I misunderstood it or it was a joke. But it was direct and intentional. Eva was sitting on the floor next to me, cutting out construction paper leaves for the thankful tree they were doing at school. She held one up proudly and said she was thankful for Grandma's cookies. Then she saw my expression and asked if Grandma was coming for Thanksgiving. I told her no. Without realizing it, I showed her the text. She read it quietly. First, she asked if she had done something wrong. Then she started crying. Soft at first, like she didn't want to be a problem. Then, harder. In that moment, something shifted in me. It wasn't rage. It was a deeper realization, the kind you can't unsee once it becomes clear. My parents never invested in her. They never really tried. And once I let myself admit it, I wasn't sure they ever wanted me fully either. Only the compliant version of me, who never challenged anything, who kept giving and kept accommodating. I didn't respond immediately. I stayed with Eva until she settled down. Then I went to my room, closed the door, and texted back, "Understood, I'll cancel my card for the event." Because that entire Thanksgiving setup, the turkey, catering, wine, the decorative herb centerpieces my mom always acted like she arranged herself, was all paid for by me. I had covered everything the last 3 years without asking for recognition. I make good money consulting, and I didn't mind supporting the holiday until that moment. Suddenly, the fact that I had paid for each holiday while they chose favorites made me feel foolish. So, I canceled everything. Every dish, every delivery, every vendor. No explanation. Just shut it down without warning. I didn't say another word to them. On Thanksgiving morning, I made pancakes with Eva, and we stayed in pajamas all day. Around 11 a.m., the group chat started blowing up. Photos of the table setting, everyone dressed up. My mom posting a picture of the empty dining room, captioned, "Just waiting on the feast." None of them seemed to realize what was happening. Then came selfies. My brother Ben smiling next to my dad with beers. My sister-in-law doing a boomerang, clinking glasses with my mom. Then they sent one to Family That Behaves. The message was intentional and unkind. Still, no one noticed the food wasn't coming. I ignored it. I put my phone on silent and let them continue, assuming everything was normal. At 2:45 p.m., Ben texted asking if the food was coming later this year. Then, a few minutes later, my mom messaged saying nothing had arrived and she was panicking. I stayed silent. I didn't need to explain anything. That night, Eva and I had simple turkey sandwiches from the deli down the street and watched The Princess Bride under a blanket. It was the calmest Thanksgiving I'd experienced in years. But that peace didn't last long. The Monday after Thanksgiving, the first warning sign appeared. Ben called twice during a meeting. I ignored it. Then he texted asking if I was free to talk and that it was important, but supposedly nothing to do with Thanksgiving. I didn't respond. An hour later, my mom called, then my dad, then Ben again. Suddenly, I existed again. But now because they needed something. That evening, I finally checked voicemail. My mom sounded different. Not cold or angry, just worn out. She said they had a situation with the bank and needed to talk about temporary help due to an issue with the mortgage. I already knew exactly what it was about. 3 months earlier, I had received a letter at my house addressed to them from a credit union I didn't recognize. I assumed it was a mistake at first, but when I opened it, I saw it was about a loan they co-signed with Ben for a brand new BMW. They were behind on payments, and the collateral used for that loan was their home. When the letter arrived, I called my mom. She dismissed it and said it was taken care of. I let it go. I shouldn't have. By the time they reached out after Thanksgiving, nothing had been resolved. The loan was in default, and the bank had already started steps to seize the house unless the balance was cleared in 30 days. I didn't respond immediately. For 3 days, I sat with the information while they continued calling, texting, and trying different tones. My dad sent a long message saying family supports each other and that he knew I wouldn't let something so small ruin everything. That was his word. Small. Losing the house they had lived in for 27 years, the home I grew up in, the house they put up as collateral for Ben's second car in 2 years, all while treating my daughter like she was an inconvenience they were forced to tolerate. My parents genuinely didn't understand why I wouldn't just jump in and fix everything immediately. They acted confused, like the default position of the universe was that I bail them out when they make reckless decisions. It frustrated them that I wasn't instantly compliant. They kept acting like this was totally normal, like this wasn't a direct escalation of every boundary they had ignored about my daughter. After going back and forth for days, I finally agreed to cover 1 month, only one, to give them breathing room to get the refinance moving and figure out an exit. I made it extremely clear this was temporary. I told them this wasn't a pipeline they could just funnel money requests through. They nodded, said they understood, and pretended they respected that. Once the payment went through, everything went back to how it used to be, or rather, how they wanted it to be. Suddenly, I was back to being the useful child again, the one they trotted out when something needed to be solved. My daughter was still ignored. Eva was still treated like she wasn't part of the family. They didn't change anything. They just changed the tone. 2 weeks later, it got worse. During the first week of December, my mom texted and asked if she could take the kids Christmas shopping at the mall. I assumed she meant both Ben's kid and mine. I thought maybe this was a step in the right direction. I told her yes, and that my daughter would be excited. When they arrived, my daughter ran to her grandmother and hugged her. And my mom actually pushed her back slightly and said, "Not you, honey. We don't have time for 2 today." She said it in a soft voice, like she thought that would make it less cruel. She turned to Eva and said it was girls' shopping day just for Ben's daughter. They had special surprises planned. My daughter stood there holding the little purse she packed herself, thinking she was included. Eva told my mom absolutely not and brought our daughter back inside immediately. They both came home upset and crying. My daughter kept asking what she did wrong. That night, I just sat there staring at that moment in my head, over and over. My mother physically separating my kid like she was an extra burden. That was the moment something in me genuinely broke. A few days later, my parents announced the new Christmas plan in the group chat. Ben was hosting. Everyone would be there. They said, since I made the most money, it made sense for me to handle the full meal this year, and everyone else would just bring small comfort sides. Then they added that it would also be nice if I covered the kids' gifts, since this year had been financially tight for everyone else. None of this was framed as a request. It was presented like a natural duty, like this was now my role. Like Thanksgiving proved I should know better than to ever push back. I told them I wasn't doing that. I explained that I wasn't subsidizing an entire holiday. I told them that I was not their emergency bank. I reminded them that I gave them 1 month to get things together, not a blank check. They reacted instantly. The tone flipped again. I was selfish. I was holding grudges. I was punishing the whole family. I was ruining Christmas. They said I was making everything about money. They said I was intentionally trying to embarrass them. I told them the only thing I refused to do was keep enabling them while they actively mistreated my child. I said that I wasn't going to keep participating in a system where my daughter was treated like she didn't belong. I said that if they wanted me in their lives, they needed to treat my daughter like part of the family. If they couldn't do that, then I wasn't entertaining this dynamic anymore. That was the last time I sent a real message to them. The group chat exploded. Accusations, guilt pressure, manipulation, attempts to triangulate through Eva, attempts to reframe it as if I was mentally unstable or dramatic. Then it abruptly went silent. Christmas came and went. We stayed home. It was quiet, just us. It was better. January started with complete silence. No calls, no messages, no attempts to apologize. What actually disturbed them was not Thanksgiving. It was the fact that I finally meant it when I said no. That this time there wasn't a negotiation or a soft landing. They were terrified because I stopped being their backup plan. They actually realized the money pipeline was gone. And once that reality finally settled in, they suddenly didn't know how to function without me. In mid-January, my dad finally reached out again. Not to apologize, not to acknowledge anything that happened. He messaged me with a long paragraph explaining that parents sacrifice for their children, and therefore, children are morally obligated to return that investment. He insisted that I wasn't just choosing to cut them off emotionally, I was abandoning responsibility. He said I owed it to them to fix this, because without them, I wouldn't have the life I had. Reading it made something in me finally snap. I told him that whatever sacrifices they made stopped counting the moment they chose my brother's comfort and convenience over my daughter's dignity. I told him that the lifetime of support they felt entitled to ended the moment they decided I was only valuable as a resource they could exploit. I told him that I would not be financially punished for their decisions. I would not be manipulated into cleaning up Ben's mess. And I would not allow my child to grow up believing this type of treatment was normal. I said that they finally taught me an actual lesson, but not the one they thought. They taught me that blood means nothing without respect. He read it and never responded. I blocked all of them after that. Every number, every group chat, every account. I removed their access to my phone, my home, my kid, and my peace. There was no speech after. No negotiation, no guilt, no more second chances. I meant it. I chose my child, and that is where it ended.